Welcome everybody. This is the Austin iOS Developer Meetup. So we're up here in Capital Factory the first Tuesday of every month, 7 p.m. in the classroom. Tonight we got two cool presentations lined up. First is going to be an app show and tell by David, a new app that he just finished. Got some really cool animations, effects, transitions in there that he can show you and talk through a little bit. And then I'm going to give a presentation on payment processing and some different frameworks out there from Apple's to Stripe. And I'm going to do a code demo and show you how you can drop those in and hopefully make some money. So I always say that encourage you to meet everyone else in the group. I think the coolest part about having a local group is meet other local developers, people that you can network with and get to know. Whenever you have a coding question, you have somebody to ask. So between meetups, we connect on our Facebook group, and I thought I had a link on there, but I don't. I'll put that up later. So we'll have these two, and then if there's time left over, rooms are still 9, so we can network and do whatever. So I'll let David kick off.
What's up, everyone? All right, so don't really have a formal presentation or anything, but I just finished an app for Jackrabbit, and so I wanted to show you all what it looks like and talk about some of the cool stuff that went into it. So, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the customer that we built this for. They are a wine certification company. So what they do is they teach people all they need to know about wine and spirits so that they can take tests and become certified and use their expertise at restaurants and hotels and Twin Liquors and stuff like that. And then they've also got like this membership that they have lots of like old people who like talking about all the wines that they collect, and they do conferences and so pretty cool people. We met with them, and they're trying to also get new customers. So they already have like all the older people, older generation who's into wine, but they see those people are getting older, so they need to get some fresh customers. And so they're hoping to use a cool iOS app to approach those customers and let more people know about their company, and then eventually also take those classes. And so we built this trivia app so that people can, for fun, learn about wine. And so this app has a couple different sections, but the most important one is here, the trivia section, which has those trivia quizzes. And so if you click on one of the sections, it opens up a bunch of levels, and you can go through here and play one level at a time, and that unlocks the next level.
What's the name of your app?
It's called Wine Quiz. That's the short name, and the long name is SWE Wine and Spirits Trivia Quiz.
I was expecting you don't know Rosemary.
Yeah, we should. That would have been cool if we could thought of some punny name. But yeah. So here you have all your levels where you can progress through here. And once you start the level, you get questions, and if you answer them correctly, you get a little green box. And then if you answer incorrectly, you get a red one. And so here, we spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time together with Jojo, who did the design, trying to really make the trivia be really polished and like the centerpiece of that. And so we made it so that there's like a lot of interactions. So if you want to see the question, you can like swipe this box out of the way, and then whenever you actually answer the questions, there's like an animation of the position where it's coming down and the size of everything, and so all of this was made possible by using Facebook's pop animation framework, which really made all these things, once you figure out what you want to do, made them really simple to implement. And,
Did you have to let this in parse?
Yeah, so the backend is all parse for it. So all these quiz questions are in parse, and they're organized into levels and categories, and so yeah, with parse we had our customers create a Excel spreadsheet of all the questions and levels, and then we basically just converted that into intermediate format and then uploaded that into, or imported it into parse, and then it was ready to use for this.
How did you know it was parsed?
When you said Facebook, I was like, oh, this is this whole app done in parse.
Yes.
It's owned by.
Yeah, so we do have we're using parse, which we really love parse. It made it possible to where it's just me working on it a few days a week in 3 months to build the whole app. And and then we have when you get 3 questions wrong, it tells you that you got it wrong, and it says 3 wrongs don't make a right. And so then you can animate or animate back to a replay. And then another really important value that we thought about for like what is going to differentiate this app is making everything not feel standard. And so we basically adjusted every single animation there is. So like the animation between the quiz questions is not just a standard consistent velocity. It's using like a spring velocity, and that again uses paper. They have a spring animation in there, and which you could with iOS 7 there's now UI Dynamics, which has a similar spring animation, but I compared the two and I feel like this one just looks more natural, and so we use that spring animation between the questions. And then after you do a couple questions and you actually pass quizzes, then you get points that show up in your profile, and these are added up. So for this we use cloud code on parse, and so what that will do is when we go to a profile, we want to have the number of points that we've scored, and so it's usually you would have to get a list of all your quizzes and add up the scores, and possibly if you are also playing on your iPad, then you have to maybe sync those scores and add them up. With this, we just ask Cloud Code what's this user's score, and Cloud Code will calculate it based on the data that's there and just send back a number instead of like a whole list of quizzes and scores. So that's another place to use parse really well. Also, the expertise, this is calculated based on which of the categories you have the highest level in. So right now I'm doing the best in the spirit category. I'm already in to the boss level, and yeah, so that uses parse again to calculate what your expertise is. We also have a couple other fields. We have certifications for, these are the certifications that they offer. If I select one of those, then it'll show up as my certification there. And I can also put in my favorite wine, since that's important for a wine app. And then so here we have our photo. This gets pulled in when you log in with Facebook, so if we log out, we can see that there's a login with Facebook option or a skip login and get started.
Did you use the social kit from Apple?
No, I use the Facebook SDK. I use the Facebook SDK for the actual custom login button and the handling the state. But then I use parse so that when I log in, I get the Facebook ID, and I tell parse give me this user who has this Facebook ID, and parse will either give you one of the parse users that has that Facebook ID, or if that doesn't exist yet, it'll create one and it'll be ready to use just as if they already had an account. But there's also a skip login button. If you push that one, you can still play the game. And then later on, if you see your quiz, you're like, oh, I don't have a photo, you can connect it. And then parse also, they have a one-line method where you say, we have this anonymous user who just logged in with Facebook, connect these two. And then from then on, they're connected, and they can log in with Facebook everywhere.
So is parse storing data for you as well, persistent data?
Yes, that's actually the main. Yes, that's the main thing that they do, or the first thing they did was was do the data storage. So they store the questions in their database, and so that way if we update questions, they'll automatically pull down our work.
Do you tie this data into whatever company sponsored you their, I guess, their own CRM system?
Not yet, but we do collect all the information that's available and save it to the users. So we have their like city and their gender and stuff like that. But so far it's not being used for anything specifically yet.
When you do that unauthenticated situation where they don't log in with
Yeah.
Facebook, are you saving data to the cloud to parse under just like the device ID or something like that? Or are you just saving it local to the
It's an
device?
anonymous user. So Parse supports anonymous users, and so that is saved in the app. The anonymous user. So if they delete the app, everything will be gone.
So is it saving it to the device though, or like does it exist up on the cloud?
It exists in the cloud, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it creates
Device ID maybe, or?
No, it just go. They have their unique identifier.
Fingerprints.
Unique ID comes from Parse probably.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it does. It's just there's no actual. There's nothing. It's just saved as a variable on the device. It's not. There's not any reason to the ID it gets. It just gets a random ID, which the device saves, so it knows what it's called.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you delete the app, then that's lost.
Right, you lost. Yeah, okay.
And so then, but as far as the rest of the app, except for the profile is concerned, anonymous users the same as anything. And they actually show up in the leaderboard as anonymous. And so we have anonymous with 10 points. And then, so this actually, looking at the leaderboard reminds me of something cool figured out during this project, which is if you have a Facebook app, you can also create test users in Facebook. So you don't have to like create you don't have to create a fake Facebook profile. You can just say like, give me some users, and it'll create however many users you want. They can be friends with each other, all types of stuff. And then if you log in as one of them, you can have their, you can use their friends to show up in their friends leaderboard, and you can have names, you can have profile photos. They act like real users, and so you can just create a ton of test users in Facebook.
That's part of the Facebook SDK, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's part of their developer console. And so yeah, so this is the leaderboard, and then the last two aren't that interesting. Here's a little bit about the company, that the Society of Wine Educators, and but we did want to make sure that they get their attention for for being their app, and so we have their certification list here, and if you click on one of them, it'll open the website that explains all the details about those certifications.
You need to get them to do a mobile site then.
Yeah, and then you can email them or call them right there, and so that's points of they can get more customers. We also link up to their blogs and the study guides that they sell, and maps that they have, and their website. Got all that right there. And yeah, so that's that.
So the email interface, is that a couple of questions? So is there a toolkit with iOS for the whole email?
Yes.
Tied to that?
Yes. So for email is a very simple thing to add to an app. You basically just create. Well, there's a framework you have to add, and then you create. You just create an email, and then you tell the framework to edit that email. So I just created that email, and then it just goes into the native email compose.
And then all the graphics that we were seeing, how are you doing that? How are you displaying that?
What do you mean? So like these graphics, details about those? Okay, so this is a collection view, and each one of those colored circles is actually a UI collection view cell, and then when you click on them, it animates the bounds of of the cell to go to full screen, and then and that's using Pop again. Facebook Pop.
So, okay, so all the graphics we see, is that all programmatic? Well, no, wine glass looks like a vector.
So the wine glass
importing
PNG.
from somewhere.
Yeah, so we have those are part of the graphics assets for that. Is the wine bottle, and then we're using a custom font for the letters. And so so if we change on the server, we change this to be instead of spirit made it liquor, it would change on everyone's app.
And that all goes to the POP interface?
Yeah, so Pop is basically if you're familiar with core animation, it's a similar looking interface, but it allows you to animate a wider variety of parameters than just bounds and colors, and it also gives you more options on timing functions that you would usually have to custom code. And so everything's using collection view. So even like the profile, it's common to use table view for this type of information. But because we also made it for an iPad, doing a collection view, when you have more width, it makes it get laid out where the first cell is left and the second cell is right, and the third cell is in the second row. And so that was the benefit of the collection views on there. Mm-hmm.
Did you do any tailoring for the tablet? Any other type of tailoring?
So for the trivia quiz, we had to resize buttons and things like that so it would look right for since it's gonna be a lot wider, and but you don't want your buttons to be that blown up. So it looks a little different on the iPad. And
enough that if I've had a few glasses of wine, I can still use it.
Yeah, the iPad is for drunk.
So how do you do that? Where does that code live? The sort of, it's just one app, it's one IPA. Where's that?
Or did you create an alternate storyboard?
I did create an alternate storyboard. In most cases, I reused the same views and had them with auto layout conform to different sizes. But sometimes it just becomes too complicated. So then I had a second storyboard, and there's a method called instantiate view controller with storyboard ID, and so you can pull things in from different storyboards, and so it becomes really simple to just pull in different ones. You don't have to when you create like the default project in Xcode, it has a certain structure, but that's flexible. It can be changed you can have. You can pull in stuff from the iPhone storyboard in an iPad app if you want.
Gotcha.
How many people on the team, and how long did it take to develop?
So I wrote the code. Jojo, our design lead, he created all the mock-ups and all the graphics so that it would look as good as it looks.
Okay. And length of the project?
3 months we worked on it, and I'm working on another project also.
In a session or two ago, we had this talk about agile interacting with customers in a rigid spec up front versus back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, so this was not an agile project, but I think at because our customers trusted us on the execution of it, we didn't have to work that much with them. And then also I think that the total time working on it is maybe like 2 sprints of a normal like full-time project. So it was not, we didn't get too far off, and it's not that complicated an app. It's like a quiz and a profile and a leaderboard. So.
But you didn't like to need to interact with the look or the assets or anything like that, or you?
Yeah, so that was me and Jojo. So me and Jojo have worked together on previous projects, and so we have our certain workflow that we have together. And so it's kind of, we do have, it's more kind of like a lean approach than a agile approach, where we, I send them screenshots and videos all the time and get feedback on them, but we don't have as much structure.
Anything go wrong? Something always goes wrong.
I'm sure. Let me think. What is going wrong on?
Wasn't there like a Facebook at some point?
Found a couple edge cases, I think,
Edge cases or something?
like updating apps.
Oh yeah. So we did. There was a problem. What was that problem? So the one problem that we had that I remember is when I sent out the test flight for everyone to test, and for some people, the Facebook login was crashing the app. And the reason was that when you have Facebook test users, you have to add them to, if you have a not published app, you have to add people's Facebook accounts to allow them to get in. And so it's not covered in the login troubleshooting things that you should do, because it's not something that you encounter once it's in production. But so that was.
You're saying when you have test Facebook users and someone wants to use their live Facebook user, you have to make sure they're added into your development group.
Yeah. So there's so that's been developed. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was your experience with Parse, and how did you feel about working with that?
Oh, really good. The only area that's not that great on Parse is the cloud code, JavaScript stuff, and basically it's just hard to debug. So I think if you're doing difficult development stuff on that server-side logic, it could be potentially negative for you. But because this app is doing very standard data-wise things, it's great to just take care of, or just take advantage of Parse already having all the boilerplate code for it.
From just a price point, or even just a ease of use, was there any other platforms you guys considered, or was it just you knew you were going to use Parse?
About a year ago, we did consider some different platforms, but we've decided that with the mobile backend services, Parse is from the category that it does serve, it's better than all the other ones that we've looked at. And then from the price point, their prices have dropped to a level where they're free to about like 100 concurrent users, and then above that, they're about AWS level prices. So the price I would not worry about.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So adding a little more to that, well, I guess everybody gets water. When SWE came to us, they were, like David said, they wanted the app for kind of marketing and to get younger people involved into the wine community, because they said all their current people, like David said, are like really old retired people. So they were really interested in putting out an app to engage younger audiences. So as we were designing the app, we included a lot of touch points that the user could, like you saw, be able to email SWE, call SWE, navigate to their website, find out more information. So that as you play with the app, you can definitely tell you see a lot of points where we talk about SWE and convey information. So it's not just a quiz app, but with some education and enough ways to get back to the organization. All right, so I will start by asking, has anybody attempted to do in-app payment processing in their apps yet? Yeah?
Yeah, but we use phones apps, so we cheat.
Okay, and then just general audience, who is a developer in here? All right, nice, good. Cool. And then who wants to make more money off their apps? Why is anybody else here? All right. So today I'm gonna run through. I've been digging into in-app payment processing a lot recently. So I'm gonna dig into some examples. I've ran through a few really popular apps and seen how they've done payment processing. I've taken a bunch of screenshots, so I'm gonna run through those and show you guys how those work. And then I'm going to dig into Apple's Store Kit. So those are Apple's native framework for in-app purchases. And I'm also going to go through Stripe. There's a bunch of other ones out there. I'm going to do a quick comparison between a couple. And then I'm going to do a code demo and show you how you can drop in Store Kit and also Stripe into your apps and how that integration actually works. So, it's not the screen. But anyways, not that we need too much motivation to make more money off apps, but trends obviously have been a lot more mobile traffic, mobile sales over the last couple of years. Too bad this graphic's off the side, but we've seen a huge increase. A lot of these studies are on Black Friday, and 5 to 10% over the years of increased traffic and sales from mobile. What we've seen in the past is that mostly people would search on mobile and then go to their desktop to actually purchase. And different reasons that people have given for that is confidence level on your phone is a little bit less than a traditional desktop because you're not sure about your security. Also things that typing in a credit card on your phone can be a pain in the butt. And sometimes it's, on your desktop, you're doing a lot more. You might be searching other reviews, opening a lot of tabs, which is a little more painful to do on your mobile device. But with more apps like Uber, Hotel Tonight that do payment processing right in the app, we're seeing a lot more success of in-app purchases, payment processing, and different things like that. Let's see if I can get this resolution.
What slideware program is this? Oh, it's just
Google Docs, yeah.
Yeah, so someone else runs it.
All right, a little better. Cool. All right, first one is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn uses Apple's Store Kit framework. If anyone's ever been on LinkedIn, it's very obvious they push their premium program pretty hard. So right in the navigation menu, you have the option to upgrade to premium. If you select that, it pops up and gives you and displays the 3 different levels. It's like business, business plus, and enterprise or whatever's after that with different levels. And they give you a monthly option and a yearly option. And if you select either one of those, it'll first pop up with this one on the left, and then it'll ask you to authenticate with iTunes so that you can use Apple's Store Kit framework to do the process the transaction. So this makes it very easy for them to collect upgrades. You don't have to type in a credit card. You can just hit one button. And an example that I had given in the past is you could probably imagine the case of a business person running between meetings. They know they want to look up information about who they're meeting with next. It's appealing to them to very quickly be able to upgrade and get those premium features, maybe look up somebody they're not connected with or find contact information for that person. So the downside is that they do lose 30%, is what Apple takes from Store Kit.
30%.
30%. So all Store Kit transactions, you get cut with 30%. Next example is Hotel Tonight. So very pretty app. It's had a lot of success. You'll log in, you'll create your account, and then on your profile page, you'll have a payment option, and you can insert multiple credit cards. So they have a cool framework for taking pictures of credit cards. That framework is called, you can see a little bit of the watermark on the top right, it's called card.io. It's actually built by PayPal, secure framework for taking pictures of credit cards and then giving you a credit card object that you can pull information from and pre-populate. I think this is great because the pain in the butt is pulling out your credit card, typing in your number, security code and everything. So you can do it the manual way and type in your number. or you can hit the scan your card button, and then you line that up, takes the picture, pulls the numbers off there, and then just has you confirm that on the last screen.
What's that system called? Cardos?
Card.io. Yeah. It's just a framework. It's on GitHub. You'll download it and drop it in real easy. And then, so you'll add your payment type to your profile. And then when you go back through Hotels Tonight, you'll find whatever is the venue you want to book. And then you select the dates that you want to book, all the details. And when you hit confirm, I like their last screen here. It's like the confirmation screen, the warning screen. It's like we're going to charge your credit card. And then you have to trace the bed to actually accept the transaction. So you can't. So it's hard to accidentally process a transaction. You gotta trace that out for it to go through.
Does that image
I'm
swap?
surprised because of random.
What's that?
Does that image swap out that you have to trace it?
No, it's always that. That's their logo. So it's always like the bed.
Pay per cardio transaction, don't you?
No.
Is it just like a licensing fee, or is it free?
It's probably like 2% or something.
No, I'm pretty sure it's
Normal credit card.
free.
Well, like credit card transaction cost.
Oh, so the transaction is not actually processed by Card.io. Card.io is just this capture framework for pulling the number off the card.
Yeah, and I know that. Yeah, I just thought you had to pay for it. Do you know? You don't. It's so
Card.io is free, though you do need to register your app with Card.io. So it is maintained by PayPal. You'll go on to Card.io, create a profile, and then you'll register your app, and you'll get a token. And then when you drop Card.io framework into your app, you'll just put that token in there.
Gotcha.
It'll work. And actually, so my first time that I dropped it in, I didn't have the token there, and it gave me an error, and I was like, okay, I gotta register this? So that part was a little weird, but yeah. Other
But
than
it's
that,
free no matter how many people use it or anything
Yep.
like that. No?
so if you do see the PayPal app, they use the same thing. Obviously, they don't have their own watermark on there. It says PayPal instead, but it's pretty handy. Next is Uber. So Uber is the crowdsourced taxi service. So they do a good job also. You'll open up Uber, you'll go to the navigation menu, click on payment, and then this, I'm guessing, is using the Stripe framework. Whenever you see the credit card strip at the top there, I'll show you that later in the demo, but that's usually Stripe. So type your credit card in there, or you can see they have the scan your card button. I'm pretty sure they use the Card.io framework also. So if you hit scan your card, same screen will pop up as you just saw. Take a picture of it, or you can just manually type it in, and it'll show up on your profile there. They also let you, as did Hotel Tonight, add multiple credit cards. So each ride, you can say if you want to use your personal card, business card, or whatever.
I'm not saying it's a good choice, but if you wanted to use a debit instead of a credit card, do at the level you've been looking, are any of them distinguishing between those?
Stripe is. I know Stripe is, and Stripe's the actual payment processor. So I in all my testing, I've only used credit cards, but I've seen in their testing framework that they'll give you a bunch of different test numbers that you can try, and they list out every major credit card provider like MasterCard and Visa, and then they'll have debit and credit, and they have every other possible transaction type. So then on Uber, after you have that added to your profile, you'll get a ride, and then after your ride, they'll give you this little receipt pop up here. You can rate your driver, tells you your total, and then I like how they email you a receipt also after that. Just kind of summarizes your ride, times, prices, fares, it tells you what card you paid with, and who your driver was. So in a lot of my testing, the first time you sit down to implement payment processing, you're like, which way should I go about actually doing this? So I went through and looked at all the major ones to see, this is the screen flow they usually go through. These are the confirmations and the warnings they usually show. So I should probably do the same in mine. Next one is Postmates. So they're same business as like Favor. They do delivery. they do delivery of places that don't usually deliver. So like Home Slice Pizza doesn't deliver, but you can order a Postmate to go pick it up for you and deliver it to you. Torchy's Tacos, a bunch of other places. So with them, you'll create an account. I just signed in with Facebook, grabbed all my data, and then I added my credit cards. So again, you see that credit card strip there, likely using the Stripe framework. So I typed in my credit card. And all the numbers I have on here don't work. So my credit card number is not 37111111111.
So this is Stripe as well.
Yeah. Yep. So Stripe is the payment processor, and I'll show you that in a little bit. That they're the one that actually charges the credit card. So then going through the rest of the flow, here I started by adding my credit card to my profile, and then I went through and I went to Torchy's Tacos, added a couple tacos to my order, also found a coupon, and placed my order, and then it matched me up with somebody who was going to go grab Torchy's Tacos for me.
Are any of these frameworks that you're using, are they providing, because I know you keep entering credit card, and of course you could store that up on a back-end server somewhere, but are any of these keeping this in the device in some sort of encrypted fact? Are they auto-encrypting, or are you doing that yourself?
Right, so
Data
that's the handy thing about all these frameworks, that they handle all the encryption for you. I have a couple nice graphics that explain it later, but basically Stripe you'll type in your credit card number on one of these screens, and then Stripe encrypts it automatically and gives you a token, and then you'll work with the token from there. So you can take that token and store it on your server, and they handle all like PCI compliance on their servers. So they'll save your sensitive data onto their servers and just give you a token back, and then you can use that token however you want, and then you can put that token on your servers so that your server can tell Stripe to process that transaction. So that you don't have to worry about any PCI compliance, they do that all for you, which is definitely the handy part.
So if you want to save that payment method, are you able to like save the last 4 of the credit cards?
Yes, there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's at least what they give you. If I wanted to query Stripe, like I'm pretty sure I can't query Stripe and get all the credit card data. They saved that, but I'm sure I could get the last 4 data.
Last 4, and then whenever you want to, if you want to save that transaction or save that payment method,
Right.
you can reprocess future transactions using that token that you have.
Right. So you'll get the token that'll match to what the data is in Stripe's database. I'll put that into my database along with my user account, and then I can just charge that token whenever I want.
How does that get validated? You've got this token. How does, somebody grab that token? Go to
Well, you have a secret key also that you combine with the token.
Right.
So any transaction lock.
Right. So when I go to register with Stripe and I'll register my business entity, Stripe will give me my developer ID and then my secret token, and then I'll use that when I'm processing transactions. So if somebody sees a transaction they want to dispute on their credit card, it'll link back to me and they'll come after me if there's a problem.
I wouldn't be surprised though. I think what he was concerning around was if I hijack that token, transmit in flight that data, I have device A, device B. If I get it on device B, can device B issue? I know you're using Stripe. Can I issue a communication to Stripe with that token?
You likely won't have my app ID and app secret. So no. If you do get that, then yes, you can process
Is the app ID and app secret stored in your mobile app?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be. I think there's some hashing or encryption there that you'd have to decrypt that, and to impersonate me, you need to decrypt that and then send that.
They must be using more.
But I mean,
They must be using some of their countermeasures like device fingerprinting or network fingerprinting or something else.
Yeah.
They can't just be relying on the token.
Is your secret ID in your source?
What's that?
Is it in the source code somewhere?
It's going to be compiled, so you're not going to.
Right, but I mean, if somebody got your laptop with your source.
Yeah, then you could definitely impersonate me.
Now, even if you get the control of your device and that key is distributed in that device, that's fair. And there's actually a vendor. One of my vendors actually issues a nice little hacked thing that just tears apart apps, and you can see everything inside the app.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's basically the same idea as OAuth, so the same level of security.
So I mean, it's definitely possible that if you were able to get those keys, then you could definitely proceed someday.
Yeah, I can turn like frameworks. I forget one of them. I know one of them trustier that on the server side, I'm fingerprinting all your transactions. So I get something that looks like it doesn't match the device or even the carrier network that you sent the previous transaction on. It starts lowering the score on whether I'll trust the transaction.
That's an interesting question. I mean, we worked on some banking apps that require that. I don't know what level,
They must have
transaction
something to get
pieces
PCI
do. I don't have a clue. But the interesting thing is the common frameworks that do that are written by people that don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, they may know what they're doing security-wise, but they don't know what they're doing mobile-wise.
PCI
So they're
compliance.
interesting, like RSI and a couple of the others, or RSA or somebody in RSA.
Yeah, I worked with Trustier, which I think they just got bought by IBM.
Yeah.
So they're pretty big.
PCI compliance is just about the storage of the crowd. I mean, they don't say anything about what's happening with these.
Oh, you have to guard your network. It's about network too. It's not just it's not just about data at rest. PCI compliance is.
So this whole.
If I put a server up without SSL on it, I'd be fried for PCI compliance.
Store, yeah, because you can store the data there. But I'm saying that PCI compliance doesn't govern this process that we're talking about right now, does it?
Well, the actual transaction of issuing the transaction, it can.
Okay.
Not the storage on not the things going on in the mobile app, but when the mobile app actually tries to charge something. So
Right.
somewhere you have to say, I've used all reasonable countermeasures to prove that this is an authentic request. And Amex and MasterCard put a bunch of stipulations on it.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I mean, they've wrapped this all into a nice framework. That's nice.
Because from developer point of view, after you have that token, it's actually pretty easy to create charge. But there's a lot of documentation on identifying fraudulent charges or like warning that they'll bring up and stuff like that.
Well, some of these services like Apple, I'm sure Apple has this already spelled out to protect them, but is there any indemnification for you as a developer? I use Stripe. I've used it in the prescribed manner by Stripe. Essentially go sue Stripe, don't sue me as the
I'm not sure. I haven't looked that deeply into all the legal stuff.
That's the one risk with all these lyric frameworks is you trust what other people are giving you and all of a sudden you're like holding the bag for all of it.
Right.
So I think one of the big reasons where there's less to worry about with Stripe is with that token, someone else, a third party, could create a charge, but the money would go to you. It wouldn't go to them. So the money would go to your account, and then you'd see these transactions. You'd know, but there would be no benefit for them because they can't charge to their account.
That's true.
Well, they're not accrediting, but they could be stealing services, gas, anything, impersonating. That's a standard credit card, the simplest credit card program.
We're not with it. You can't steal gas with that.
Right,
with
because
a
you're gonna.
Stripe token.
Well, I'm just giving an illustration. Anything you could purchase, that you could be allowed to purchase.
So I guess one thing could be, for example,
from you,
if someone hacked
from your
Uber, then they could use someone else's Uber account, maybe something like that. So Uber thinks, oh yeah, this person's paying me, but I think it's probably easier to get actual credit card information from some black marketplace than to try to break Ubers.
So what is the, step back a little bit, this bypasses Apple 30%
Yes.
charge. How do they get away with that? Doesn't Apple say, no, you can't do that, we want our 30%? Or how does that work?
They have certain rules, so if you're like selling food through the app, it's not really like the app service, it's the software you're paying for. And so that's why Apple allows that. Like, or else Amazon couldn't have an app for on the iPhone. But if you're trying to like sell in-app purchase using Stripe, you wouldn't be allowed to do that.
But Amazon doesn't have an app on the iPhone. You have to go to the website.
No, they do.
No, they do. Yeah,
They do? You can actually buy it now?
You can't buy a book.
Oh, that's what I mean. You have
But
to
you can
go.
buy a
You
full
can.
book.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
And there's certain media.
Yeah,
that's
that's
restricted.
digital content you can't buy because that's
Anything Apple sells, you can't buy.
Oh, so you can buy paper books, but you
Oh,
can't.
yeah, I
Oh,
do
see, I
that.
haven't tried. I always just do the, yeah.
So for a game developer,
Yeah.
and I'm buying, tokens or whatever in game, that has to go through Apple digital virtual currency.
Do you know if Google has the same limitation on the Android?
I know if you use
Google Play, I mean.
Wallet, actually I haven't used that, so I don't know.
And they don't take like a 30% thing.
As far as buying
It's
apps
something-
off the Play Store, yes, they take 30% there too. But I haven't explored in-app processing on Android.
It's gotta be very similar. You gotta mention all those games.
Right.
Must be the biggest one.
Right.
Farmville or whatever.
Is there any way to establish, I think Apple calls it continuity, and between different platforms? And so what I mean is, say you enter your one or more credit cards on your phone, and then later on you want to use that on your iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to re-enter? I think my understanding with the tokens, do you have to re-enter on the iPad?
So that'll show up on your profile again. So like if I go to like Postmates on my iPad, my profile will come up and it'll have my registered cards. I won't be able to get all my data off of there. Like if I go to one of those cards, it's not going to give me all that data after I enter it, but it'll show me that my last four, like what kind of card it is.
Okay, so it's using more than just a local machine-specific ID.
Yeah, so those tokens, like for that Amex, that token that is given, I could use it on any device that I could cloud sync.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Postmates is saving that token to my profile. So then if I go on another device or my iPad, I can use that same token and have a transaction.
Do you have to go through a trust process for any additional
Yeah.
iOS devices, for instance?
Well, you have to sign in with your Apple account, I'll have to sign into my Postmates account on the new device.
Okay, so that's your gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Do you know what Square does? Square can use Stripe?
Square is more for like a merchant center for swiping cards. So they don't have an API for charging cards.
Right, but still the transaction has to go through something.
Right, so they're using their own backend somewhere.
I know it is a shared backend because it's kind of weird when you're a cab driver that you never know. Swipes and they say, oh, we have your email right here. They're sharing some of that information somehow through some sort of cloud or framework.
Yeah. Right. So I did end up ordering Torchies. And again, I like how they send you a receipt in your email, what you ordered, how it was charged, and gives you that. So now I did a little bit of digging of StoreKit versus third-party services, and there's a bunch of third-party services out there. These are just a couple of them. So Stripe, I think, is the biggest. Braintree's a close second, and then everyone knows PayPal. Some other ones are Balanced, Buybox, and Payment Wall is an enterprise version.
Do you see any difference like with PayPal? Like you just pointed, everyone knows that they advertise their little PayPal ninjas and all that kind of stuff. Does that lend, do you see, to in-app, or have you ever looked at data where people in-app purchase more with something like PayPal attached to you versus like Stripe? We all know it.
Right.
But
everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, no one else does.
Yeah.
Everyone knows PayPal and eBay and all that great stuff.
I haven't seen statistics, but I know Uber, and my screenshot didn't have it, but Uber, when you add a credit card, you can choose a credit card or PayPal. So you can add your PayPal account to Uber and pay with that also.
Right, but Uber, I would say, is still a fringe. My grandmother's not using Uber.
Right.
My mother's not using Uber. Like, we're trying to get up, like, that marketing. You showed up there, Black Friday shopping.
Right.
So I'm wondering how much of the selection does it matter and how much you're going to pay for PayPal's name to get that trust level.
Yeah.
Or if it matters. If the data says it doesn't matter, then
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many statistics on that, but apps are probably give them as many options as possible. Let them pay whichever way they want.
You'll never see Stripe. You'll never see Stripe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So it's my own trust. It's how well you trust Evan's
I just
app company.
bought some, thing off of a music store website. And I just put my credit card information in. They could be using Stripe. I don't know what they're using to process that credit card transaction. I'm not thinking about it really.
So which of those is easier to implement or technical side, and which of those, and also which of those is easier for the end user to use to go through the process?
Yeah.
Or are they all about the same?
So that's the big question. And as far as like third-party frameworks, I'd say Braintree and Stripe are the most polished, along with PayPal. The other ones are newer startups that I'm sure they're very, very similar. But as far as like documentation-wise and just market usage, Stripe and Braintree are two of the biggest.
And there's fees associated with these?
Yes. So they actually have the same fees for entry level. I haven't looked too far down the pipeline, but I think I don't remember what it is, but it's like just a couple percent and 30 cents a transaction.
What level of customer support features do they offer for like transaction dispute, not just you to them as the app vendor, but customer? Do they give your customers a first line number to call, or like pay? Everyone knows you can go PayPal and dispute something.
Yeah.
Do either of these like Braintree or Stripe have any type of first line customer support, or is it up to them to yell to you and then you have to call Braintree?
Yeah, I haven't tried customer support. And that is a good question because you wouldn't see Stripe when you were charging your card, but who did they call first? They'd call you first.
What's the merchant ID that shows up? Does it say Stripe 0666 or something like that? And Stripe vendor, it's just your merchant number.
Yeah,
or something.
I think from what I've seen, when I register with Stripe, when they process the card, they use my name when they process the card. So the line item on my credit card is going to say whatever my business is.
They wouldn't put the vendor name, so like if you're doing a hotel, your hotel example, it wouldn't give the name of the vendor.
So hotels is going to be a little different because it's going through hotels, but then it's all their merchants. I'm not sure which way hotels does it.
Or even your example of the one where was it Postmates or something like that?
Postmates, yeah. So Postmates on my credit card will come up as Postmates.
Postmates, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would think is that you never need end customer direct service because you're either working through the merchant where you think you're buying it from, or you're working through your credit card company.
Yeah.
And they connect the middle.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know that it was Stripe, or like I wouldn't know if it's Stripe or Braintree, so I wouldn't know who to call there. So I would call the company that charged it, or I'd call my credit card, and then they'd handle it from there.
Whereas I guess PayPal, they advertise that as a trust factor for you. Now they're not paying us interest.
Yeah. So that's some of the things that I broke down here is with StoreKit, you're signing in with Apple. That gives the user a level of trust that they'll see they're signing with Apple. They know that they're using their credit card that's on their Apple account. They know it's being processed by Apple. Whereas if it's an app I've never heard of before that wants my credit card and it's going to go process it, that's a bit less trust. And I'll also know that when I'm using StoreKit that my card's going to be secure, I'm not retyping it in, and that it's going to process that transaction securely, it's not going to lose my data. Also with StoreKit, you don't need to implement any backend. It can be all on your app side and makes it simple for users. Faster checkout that I don't have to type in that whole credit card. Kind of with the LinkedIn example, all I need to do is sign into my Apple account and it'll charge me. Downside is that 30% transaction fee, and that also Apple needs to improve all of your products that you're selling, which that also makes it very restrictive. That for a LinkedIn example, there's those like 6 levels of like the three different levels of that I could be buying, and then the monthly or yearly. So really, they just have 6 packages. But if you have like an Amazon store service, you'd have to submit all those, and that would be a pain in the butt to maintain.
But something generic like your Postmates. Would you just say food and be one category?
So when you add your products, you need to add levels of tiers. So I would, I need to have like a different tier level for every single dollar amount, and I wouldn't be able to do 50 cents. It has to be every 99 cents. So 99 cents, 1.99, 2.99. Other thing is, I feel like StoreKit's a little awkward, especially from the developer point of view. Upsides of third-party stuff is it's easier to do cross-platform. So if I had an iPhone app and an Android app, I could use Stripe in both and implement it very similarly. Obviously lower transaction fees, and then Stripe has APIs for iOS, Android, every platform out there. So I can use Stripe for all those, where StoreKit is just iOS. Flexible pricing, so like you saw with Postmates, whatever that price is going to come out to be, that's what I get charged.
Requires back-end support.
So to actually process a transaction, and I'll show this in my demo, is you cannot process a transaction from your phone. You need to send that token to your backend, and then your backend is what has to process that transaction. So I can't. So I'll save.
Does it dictate the platform that transaction has to run?
Dictates connectivity.
Well, I think they have multiple frameworks for the backend.
Can I run it in an iOS server? Do I have to run it on Cold Fusion? Do I have to run it in?
I don't think they dictate that.
So they've got, it's just open, you have to just connect to a certain procedure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just connect to a certain way.
Yeah.
When you say cross-platform availability, and you mentioned, did Stripe have, I think Stripe has native SDKs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have anything for any of these cross-platform hybrid mobile solutions? Like, do they have anything for Titanium, or do they have anything for Cordova, or any of those?
I think they do, and if they don't, there's also, so on their website they have all their official ones that they built, and then they actually have links to third-party services that other people have built.
Okay, cool.
What about internationalization? I mean, I've done some transactions for Europe. I've never heard of any one of these companies other than PayPal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know Apple does, and I know in Stripe they have international stuff. Yeah. So to set up StoreKit, so I'm going to quickly explain StoreKit, and then I'm going to explain Stripe, and then I'm going to do the code demo. So in StoreKit, you need to log into iTunes Connect and go to manage your apps, and you have to manage each one of your potential in-app purchases. So one thing to note is that from my app, I can't query, Apple won't tell me the list of products that my account has configured. I need to know what those product IDs are, and that can either be hard-coded by me as a developer, or I can query whatever my API is and get a list of products. And those product IDs need to match up with what is configured in the StoreKit. So this is part of the manual process that I need to add each and every one of these. And there's different types. So you can have a consumable, which in a video game might be like an extra life or whatever it is that I'm unlocking, used once and then it's gone away. And then there's like subscription types where, for example, like a magazine or something that's recurring, or a one-time use, or I forget what it's called, but just a non-consumable where you get it, use it, and keep it. And then I have to submit all of those to Apple for review before they can actually be used in the app. So it is a little bit of a pain in the butt process. And the way that it works is you can see that your app about left can communicate with your server. Maybe I'm getting my list of available products for today. Maybe that can change from tomorrow, and get those product IDs, and then I can display those products to the user. They can choose what they want to purchase, and then my app communicates with StoreKit. StoreKit's what actually talks to the App Store and charges that, tells the App Store that I'm purchasing that product, which is configured. So they have this process of doing that. So we're retrieving product information. Again, I need to know my product IDs that I'm going to query Apple for, and they need to match up. Where I have two products configured here, if I query Apple with only one of those, they're only going to give me one product back. If I query with two, they'll give me two products back. If one doesn't match, they'll give me an error, or they'll give me the valid ones, and they'll reject the error ones. So once the App Store does respond and gives me the valid products based on my product IDs, then I can display some kind of store UI, whether it's like in a game or it's like a sheet that I'm ordering from. So I'll display that UI, and then for actually requesting payment, the user will select a product. Again, in a video game, you might be buying a power-up, might be buying something else. So once the user selects that, I'll make the payment request. I'll add these purchases that have been configured. I will add those to my payment queue, and then that makes a payment request to the App Store. App Store processes the payment and then gives me a callback. So then when I get that callback, I'll know that my transaction has been processed successfully, and I can do something in my app, whether that's unlock a new level for the user that did process the payment or whatever it is. So delivers product. Whereas Stripe, basically Stripe on iOS is just this easy little handy view and whatever they do on the back end that I can input a credit card number with an expiration date, CVC code, and then that goes to Stripe, gets encrypted, they handle all the PCI compliance for me, and I get a token back. And then I just do everything based off that token. So I can save that token locally, I can save it to my server. Well, actually I have to save it to my server if I want to do anything with it. And then once it's on my server, I will tell my server from my app to create a charge command. So again, in like Postmates, when I hit checkout, that was telling the server to charge the token that I had given it to process the transaction. So then my server will take that charge command, send to Stripe. Stripe will send me a response to my server, and my server will send me a response to the client side. So that is the interaction there. So
you have a token for the credit card data, but you also have a transaction ID
yes.
that expires after some time, probably.
Yeah, well, on a successful, any transaction attempt, I'll send it from my app to my server to the Stripe, and then Stripe will send it back to my server, the results, my server will send that back to me. So I'll have IDs based on everything that went through or didn't go through. So what I'm gonna show you today is the first two steps here. You guys can figure out 3 and 4. So I have just a quick app shell. I'm going to show how to drop in the frameworks, how to integrate them, and how to use StoreKit and Stripe. Right. This is huge. Okay. So what I'm going to be building is just a really simple, simple shell app. It's going to have StoreKit. It's going to have Stripe. I'm going to show you how to configure a transaction or configure a StoreKit product, process that, and then I'm going to show you how to add a credit card in Stripe, and then get that token from Stripe. And live coding demos are always super exciting, so just follow along. If you have any questions anywhere in what I'm doing, feel free to shout out. So I need to make sure my bundle IDs match what I will have configured in Apple. So I've done some of the configuration beforehand. So if anything doesn't make sense, let me know. I already have an app configured and registered with Apple. Then I have a couple products, you saw from that screenshot, configured, and it's using this bundle identifier. So the bundle identifier in my front-end app needs to match the identifier that I'm going to talk to Apple with. This is my payment processing app. 2 buttons. One's going to go to StoreKit, one's going to Stripe. I'll walk you right through the StoreKit. So they have a pretty good guideline, and those are the two graphics that you saw earlier. So if you want to go back and reference, just Google for Apple in-app purchases, and this will take you here. I'll show you iTunes Connect also. So iTunes Connect, this is where you manage all your apps, also where you manage your products. So when you go to an app, and I got logged out. So these are the apps that I configured with this account. I'll go to my payment processing one. So it's something, I register with Apple. This is that bundle ID that needs to match. And then I go to manage in-app purchases. And these are the couple that I do have added. Let me throw in another one to show you just how that's done. So when you hit add new, it gives you this list of options. This is the options that you have when you add a product with Apple: consumable, non-consumable, auto-renewable subscriptions, free subscriptions, and non-renewing subscriptions. Consumable and reference name. These are the tiers that you're restricted to. They're labeled as tiers because in different app markets, you have different currencies, and those are at different levels. Basically, tier 1's 99 cents, tier 2's $1.99, $3.99, and such forth. Just this next one random. Yep, here's their whole pricing matrix. See that breakdown. And then you talk about internationalization. So this is where you would add different languages, what you wanted that name to display as.
See, tier 12 or something like that. So that means that it's $12.99.
$11.99.
$11.99.
Because one is 99 cents. Yeah.
And that whole matrix is showing what it might be elsewhere. Or?
Yeah. So this is like, so I'll show you. If it's charged in Japan, I'm making a lot of yen.
Gotcha.
I think. So, and then review notes. So everything you send to Apple has to get approved by them on what you're going to be charging people for. So anything that you want the reviewer to see, you put in here. And you have.
How long is the approval once I start?
It's about the same as a regular app. About 3 to 6 days.
Do you have to put the approval in before your app is published, or you have to wait till after?
When your app is in line for the App Store, then you can submit them for approval. Yeah. So generally, when an app gets released, all of them will, if you have them queued at the same time, they'll all get approved at the same time. Yeah. Or else that would be really awkward to release the app with the 9
You can't buy anything, but.
And then you just gotta give them a screenshot of what that's gonna be. And save. So then this is my list of products. Now I have 4. And then these are the product IDs that I need to know about in my app and whether I put this on my server and query my server for it so that I don't, if I hard code it, then I would need to update the app every time I want to change my product list. Whereas if I store these on my server, then my app can query my server and update that after it's been approved.
I'm surprised that the CloudKit didn't have like a catalog inventory for your in-app purchases on the API.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of weird too, that I couldn't query Apple for my app for a list of my products. Probably a security measure, who knows?
I would think it was just like a commerce catalog.
Yeah. So I'll leave this open because I'll go back here when I get to that. Back to my app, I got these 2 buttons, pay a StoreKit, pay a Stripe. So I'm going to do StoreKit first. I'm adding a table view here because when I hit StoreKit, I want to display a list of my products. Put it in navigation controller so I can close it.
like you've done this a couple times.
This is where Automator, just so you know, works really well.
What's that?
Automator,
On there.
have you ever used it? You could do all this, capture it once, it'll play back. It'll recreate all the screens.
But,
for you.
so like doing a code demo, like just
Yeah.
have a
Oh, yeah,
play
yeah, that's
and be
what
like,
it's-
go,
yeah, that's-
look at how I do it.
That's what's from. Do you remember the old Apple at the keynotes? They would show all the stuff they were doing in Photoshop and it would just play through. That was Automator or Apple Script back in the day. Everything you're doing, everything you can click is scripted.
Because lab demos are very prone to fail, so that'd be very
You could have
useful.
kick points where you have to hit a key to say advanced signal set. Advanced.
Yeah.
Trick,
Not that we're impatient, you know.
trick is if you want
Yeah,
to
well,
break
I
out a demo.
might not have time, so. Create two controller. Set this view to be on utility. Done button, close that view. Okay, now I'm going to add the store kit framework. So we can use it. So now back to Apple's documentation. They walk through it pretty well. So that the first page is all about how to configure your products in iTunes Connect, what I just showed you. Second part is actually retrieving those products. So they give you some code samples, and here they talk about hard coding it in a plist or grabbing it from your server. This is getting it back in JSON. And then these are the two methods that they suggest implementing. So you want a method to send your product identifiers to Apple and then get those back. Create a couple variables for holding those. One's going to be for the identifiers that I need to know about, and the second one's going to be for the products that Apple's going to give me back when I query them. And then I'm going to declare that I am a delegate. So this is where I'm going to put in the list of identifiers that I need to have. So going to my iTunes Connect profile, I'm going to use these. So I'm only going to put these three in. You'll see when I get the response back that it will not include the last one that I just configured. So that's my initialization. So in this method that Apple gave me, that's going to request those product identifiers. I'm just going to comment this out because I don't care if it gives me invalid ones back. Just for demo purposes. Normally I would. And then just for simplicity, I'm going to use Progress HUD. When I make a request, see a nice little pop-up. So when that request goes off, show the progress HUD. When I get the request back, let's bring my look at it. Alright, so my standard table methods, where section is just one, and then number of rows are going to be the number of products that I do have. And when my view loads, that's when I want to validate the products. So when I do get the products back, I type escape product. And you remember we added the different internationalizations, so I want the localized title. And the price here. Then when I get the response back from Apple, that's when I will.
Here, you missed a semicolon.
Up top. There. What happened in Swift?
No, it just won't catch an exception.
Let's see if that works. So also other thing is that when you're talking to StoreKit, it will only work on a device, which is fun. So if you're using the simulator and it's not working, that is why. After you hit your computer 10 times, you'll remember that. And so let's see if this works. So pay the store kit, pop up, asking Apple, my 2 products. I must have typed my 3rd one in wrong because it's only giving me 2 back.
You said the third one wouldn't hit.
What's that?
The third one, you put product 2 on the third one.
Oh, I did put product 2.
Yeah, you did. You said you would have said the third one.
Yeah. So you can see if you ask Apple with an invalid product ID, they won't give you that one back. So again, you need to know your product IDs before you ask Apple. Just keep that in mind. So finish this one. So we're probably gonna run out of time because it's like 10 minutes too. So I'm gonna finish up the StoreKit one. Stripe, I'll post my code to a GitHub repository, and I'll send out a link to everybody. You guys can go see how that works. And I'll type out my list of steps for implementing that so that you can go do it yourself on your apps and have that reference there. So next what we're going to do is if you select one of these products, what happens, how to tell Apple that I want to charge that product.
Meanwhile, all these products are in the be prepared to submit or ready to submit.
So I can do that right now because I'm in testing.
You're doing
So I have
dev
my-
builds.
yeah, that is a good point.
I hate for my unit test script to like bankrupt me.
And actually, with the tester account, so I had to. You also have to create new users under this test account, and I had to. It makes you register a credit card with them. And I even tried to type in like the regular default test credit account that Stripe gave me, and it wouldn't let me use that. So I had to put in a real credit card, and I was like, "What are they just going to charge me just for testing?" Or like, put up maybe like a test charge. I thought that'd be cool, but I didn't see anything on my card.
Until your credit card company comes back to you and says, "Where are all these reverse?"
Apple just charged you $500. What are you buying?
And then reversed you.
Yeah. So back in the code, I'm going to hit one of the cells. I'm going to take that product that I'm selecting, send it to Apple, get the response back from Apple, and tell my user about that. So what you do first is create a payment, SK immutable payment. You tell what product you are creating that payment for. So back in my slide, I said store kit's a little awkward, and it's because of this. So I grab my product, then I create a payment object for that product, and then I add that payment for that product to my queue. Apple talks a little bit about this, but it's basically if you have somebody rapidly tapping on a bunch of things, trying to order them, they're going to go in this queue, and they'll be processed in the order submitted to Apple. It's kind of like, why would it not be processed in that order? So. And then so to get the response from Apple, I have to register myself with the default queue as a transaction observer. Then I will get the response from Apple when that product is charged.
How does it run to the handler?
So
Register in the observer is just going to send a message back.
right, it's just going to come back to my app, and because this guy is registered as my transaction observer, it's going to come back to this class when something's charged. And then they provide a method for what they suggest when that goes through. This was the submitting the payment request. Now getting the products back. So for this case, just because it's a demo, I'm just going to show the case of completing a transaction. I'm going to just comment out restoring transactions. So that's if you think that you have somebody signing on their iPad, then you can restore transactions that they processed on their iPhone or transactions that they processed in the past. gotta do that manually.
You can see other users that are on your network also using your app. You can see friends out using your app. So if you want to do like another friend, you can just
Then you have to implement this complete transaction.
they want you to pay for Amazon.
So this is what Apple tells you to do, that when you're done with the transaction, you need to call this finish transaction method. I guess that's to confirm that you've delivered your product to the end user. Compile this back to my phone. So I'm going to pay with store kit, pop it open, get my products. I did fix that product identifier, so now it gave me the third one back. If I try to charge one, it'll ask me to sign in with my iTunes account. So this is my test account that I created. And I got to sign in there. It'll confirm that I want to purchase this product, and it'll tell me that I'm using the test environment, sandbox. Hit buy, and then your purchase was successful.
Is
Nice.
that confirmation, that's not something you did, that's something that starts it.
Right, StoreKit did that.
So when it says successful, it should call back to your app saying, okay, charge went through, do whatever logic you were supposed to do.
Right.
That's what I was asking where that linkage back to that callback was declared.
So going back to my
Yeah, so
code.
it is, you actually want to actually log in because you get like store on data.
It'll go to updated transactions. So this is when a transaction is processed by Apple. It'll go back to this in the switch statement that if that transaction was completed successfully, it'll go to my method here. And then you have cases for a failed transaction, and then if it just detecting that it's restoring transactions to do in that case. So like you said, again, it might be like unlocking new levels, giving a user certain power-ups, or whatever it is that that content is that you're delivering to your users.
How do you handle conflicts or refunds? You know, somebody says, hey, I just got charged on my credit card for this thing. Do they contact Apple, I guess?
I haven't had to do refunds yet, but
Yeah, Apple does refund.
yeah.
I do my apps too, I mean, they have a mechanism to do it.
Because I think I've heard a lot of the cases of like my kid went through and charged about all the levels in the game and charged like $100. And I think Apple's pretty good about issuing refunds.
So Apple filters all of that before they come to you. I imagine at some point they're going to contact you as the merchant.
Yeah.
And you're storing all your transaction IDs, I guess.
Yeah, but they're gonna present you a list with here's the transactions that completed, here's your check from Apple.
Yeah, so you can't refund, like, I have an app on the App Store that people buy, and I've had people that like bought it in a city where they can't use the app, and I wanna refund them, but I can't. So only apps could refund apps.
Is there ever a situation where an app company would use both Stripe and the in-app processor?
You could.
I mean,
No reason why
would there
not
be
to.
an advantage though? Is there?
Maybe that when you had to, if you're doing digital content, kind of like the example they gave earlier with like Amazon. So Amazon, what was it? You can't buy Audible books.
Right.
Oh, you can't buy, you can't buy Kindle books.
You can't sell that type of product in your app.
Oh, gotcha.
If you
You have to go to the website. They can't even give you a link to the website. You have to actually physically go to the website.
Yeah. So it's like when you're distributing digital content, I think. Then you have to use it. So
It was in one of the things you pulled
Yeah.
up there and had like this, this much.
things you can't sell.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So maybe like Postmates does Postmates and then also sells me ringtones or something.
Well, see, you get into the other issue you get into, and maybe it only applies to digital content, but you have to charge the same price.
Right.
So, I don't know how that would, I don't know, I don't have a clue.
Well, again, it goes back to that trust. I mean, I trust Apple. If you say pay with Apple, you have that button, pay with Apple, pay with PayPal,
Oh,
pay
because you
with
have a
Stripe.
trust first or last, yeah.
And I'm like, it's a convenience feature, I just need to put my password in.
Right.
5 seconds, but maybe I've got a little
Or
more
touch
hurdle.
ID if you.
Yeah, but my touch does.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some convenience factors. So there's an argument you could be using multiple payment systems
Yeah.
in there, as long as the content itself could be distributed.
I guess it's kind of similar to like Uber lets you integrate PayPal or credit card. So they're using multiple ones too. Is any questions?
One question about the refund. Does it come back and notify you so you can back out whatever it is that you,
I haven't seen any refunds. Have you seen any refunds, yours?
Yeah, so there are receipts that you can track there's like some type of receipt thing. I haven't looked into it. If someone gets a refund, I don't care if they can still use it. But there are some type of receipts which you can also use to make sure your app doesn't get pirated.
No, so if you had like a service that they were using, even bandwidth or something, you could.
Yeah.
You think that's something that like fine though, you spent the credit by the time you're told, and it was already gone.
You can take away your animals.
You can exit the account, but you want them to spend more money with you again in the future, so I think the policy is probably best to ignore it.
But if you buy things with your Apple account, you get some kind of email confirmation of it, right? I mean, maybe there's an option for the person to refund it right from there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know at least when you buy apps, you'll get the receipt. When you do an in-app purchase, you'll get the receipt for that. I'm sure there's ways you can.
Yeah, but
There's something in there that says if you didn't do this or.
like if I buy like 5 things at once, a day later I'll get the receipt, because it waits for me to see if I buy some other thing.
Right. Cool. So I hope this is useful. I remember before, like way back before I did any in-app purchases, you think like, oh man, this is gonna be really hard, really, all the security and everything goes into it. I think it's useful just to show off so that when you guys go do it, you've seen it before, so hopefully it helps you guys. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Did you see that NFC would kind of blow itself away?
NFC?
Yeah, when chips in the credit card become the norm. It's
Yeah. I don't know. Not sure yet. I know Apple hasn't supported NFC yet, so I don't know. Yeah.
There's rumors though with their relationship with IBM that IBM's pushed them to enable the NFC component for their phone.
Right.
But I think Apple, for the most part, and some others are now making up Bluetooth low emission for like using walking up to something and doing a charge versus the NFC program.
I'm trying to figure out ways to get around the 30%. Say you have something, say it's a game,
Yeah.
okay? And you sell a subscription now,
And it works.
or if you will, a Easter egg subscription.
Actually, you know, I was looking at that as well.
Do you have to, is the current reading the iTunes that you have to go through Apple to get that subscription updated? It doesn't.
It's in the documentation and the review, though, they get you the review cycle, it's not. But I don't know.
I'm sure you can Easter egg something, but if they ever find it, then.
Well, I'm not using Easter egg the right way. The point is if you could purchase against a subscription against funds that they have forward, the customer has forward purchase. So you have a tab that you're charging against.
Yeah.
How would they pay you the initial amount?
Presumably, what you'd like to do is you'd have it,
Yeah, I was actually just looking at something like that. So like, so a service that you would register your credit card on like the website, and then you would go to the app and be able to charge it.
Yeah, Apple wouldn't be able to.
PayPal?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, you load PayPal up with cash.
I just wonder if it's Stripe, if you could use Stripe for all that transaction. Basically,
So
You're
something
reloading your
where
kitty.
Apple would probably get you there is that whole thing where you couldn't have a link in your app to that if they found it. So
Right.
potentially, yeah, I mean, if you went to a web view or went to whatever, you probably could, but if you had,
It's
it's
like with Amazon, you probably already have credit cards registered with Amazon. If you go to their app, they won't even let you buy the digital content because Apple restricts that.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on how the product is being delivered to you. If Apple can determine that it's a digital product that's going to be delivered through an iPhone or an iPad or anything like that, then they're going to say no.
So for
No matter how you're paying for it, it's all about how the product gets delivered.
yeah, so the going to that intent area. So if you wanted to sell your game tokens through Amazon store, even though there's an Amazon store app there, Apple would probably deem that digital media and say no.
Okay, well, let me switch the app a little bit. Instead of a game, say it's a consulting service, okay? And so you have somebody who is basically purchasing units of your consulting service. And say they have used all their tokens, they've used everything that was in the kitty, and they want to refresh your retainer fee. Could you do that all through Stripe as opposed to the Apple store?
Yeah, because it's not digital content. Your product is not being delivered through. It's not a digital product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
So,
And
so
you
it's
could probably-
more. So it's not. No, that's not necessarily the means. It's the type of product.
That's right.
Depending on the locales you're operating in, you may want to actually turn it into that virtual currency, like the unit, and present not talk about it in terms of dollars, except during the point of transaction.
Yeah.
Now, in these pay services, what about taxes in the sense of your local sales tax? Because you can get audited. Do some of these keep track of that, or can you basically download the logs from these services?
As far as like your transaction history, yeah, you can download all those for like accounting
That might be
purposes.
significant.
And I think Stripe has integrations into like QuickBooks and stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is another question with swipe purchases. So all of the in-app processing is assuming there's no swipes. This is all fed in from
Right.
fingers. Is there a way to swipe and still go through Apple? Does anybody know that? Through another third party? Nope, because they're still using their own, like PayPal and Square and, okay.
Yeah.
it's an interesting point, because
Yeah.
it's usually cheaper with the
Right.
vendors if it's like.
Well, it's cheaper, but
I mean,
look at it
the
like a
vendors they
retail,
charge.
like a retail store that may be online and offline, right? Who may do the majority of their purchases through swipes or mobile card or something. I don't know, I'm just
I
thinking.
mean, even a Square gets better rate if it's
Yeah.
a swipe card versus.
I mean, you
That's
can cobble
codified.
together. You can cobble together your own card reading technology separate from your payment processing gateway,
Okay.
and like capture the card read. Like if you were to do a handset,
Yeah, you know that whole Indemnify thing you were talking about?
But no, then you're taking it on a lot of things like
Taking on a
yourself.
huge
Yeah, you're taking on the responsibility.
But you look at, I can tell you, Apple, when they produce their handset unit there, that component, it's their own componentry. They specified the hardware for their sled. Their first edition was little, if you go into their store and you see not the iPhone, but the iPods, and there's a sled wrapped around the iPod.
Oh, that they use
That
in
has
stores?
a full credit card reader.
Yeah.
That's completely separate from their payment processing system. They capture the card, send it to their existing in-store retail payment processing system. So it's a completely separate system. So, and Apple actually encourages a whole division of Enterprise Apple that encourages you to build such products for your customers on the Apple platform. They've been asking it for restaurants.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of third-party
Yeah.
kits that you can use for hardware.
Okay.
Yeah, Honeywell's got them. There's a bunch of them now that have them, and other firms will custom fabricate even for you. So, but it's that indemnification, like Stripe and these things, like us.
Right.
And unless you're like a real big box store and you've already got a credit card reader and all that kind of.
All the scams that are out there, even without the scams. So, very nicely done.
Thank you.
Have you ever heard of Key Grip?
Key Grip?
So,